How could we ever be confused about who we truly are? Why does this confusion even exist in the first place? Let's find out what the most dangerous spiritual book in the world has to say about this illogical confusion. The most dangerous spiritual book for your ego focuses a lot on suffering and this confusion that we have at an individual level. Now, that very text is the Avadhuta Gita. Now, the Avadhuta Gita is what is considered a Nididhyasana text. Now, a Nididhyasana text is a group of texts that are reserved for those on the cusp of enlightenment or those who have gone beyond the pale of enlightenment. Now, in the Avadhuta Gita, there's a very important verse about why we are confused and how we forget our true nature. Let me read this very important verse to you. You are that pure, bodiless, unborn, imperishable, unchanging reality. How can there be any confusion relating to the Atman? And again, how can you say, I am confused? Now, for those of you who are new to non-dual Advaita Vedanta knowledge, Atman is referring to the undifferentiated consciousness that we all are, that connects us all as one, which actually we are one, and the Atman is identical with the ultimate reality of Brahman. And so in the Avadhuta Gita, Lord Dattatreya is constantly trying to remind us that we fundamentally are the Atman, and we are not this ego persona system that we call jiva in Sanskrit. We are not this jiva at all. This is something that we've been conditioned to believe we are. This is the process we all go through in life, where we endure a conditioning process and then we become this person that we think we are, but we are actually not. It's just an accumulative set of knowledge that we have acquired as we continue to live. And other people reinforce these beliefs about ourselves. They tell us this is how we are, this is who we are, etc. But Lord Dattatreya is telling us we're not that. We are the ultimate Atman. And so when we understand that we're the ultimate Atman is unborn. It is the unchanging reality. It is that eternal aspect of who we are. It is what we actually are. There is no ego in actuality from the non-dual perspective because all is Atman. The only thing that believes it's separate is this idea of this subjective viewpoint that we have. So when we see the world and we cut the world up into this and that, according to our conditioning, our likes and our dislikes, that is what the illusion is. And this is what Maya is in Sanskrit. This is the illusion of measurement. And so we cut the world up into separate parts. There is this body, there is that person. I have this mind, someone else has that mind. And then we continually dissect the world up into this and that. And we forget that the fundamental aspect of reality is Atman, which is identical with Brahman. And so it's this underlying unchanging reality which is immanent within all reality but also transcends it. And so that's what we all really are. We are that pure, bodiless, unchanging reality of the Atman. And so how could confusion ever arise? The only aspect of ourselves, in air quotes, that we could say is confused is the jiva, because the jiva believes it suffers, it believes it is separate from the world, and the world is something against it. And so then we build all of these artificial boundaries within our mind and even due to our body that keep us apparently safe, and we try to protect this being who we are. And there's nothing wrong with protection, right? There's nothing wrong with protecting yourself from harm and so forth and so on. But when we talk about the deeper layers of Eastern spirituality and philosophy, we have to come to that deeper understanding that we're building all of these barriers around ourselves, particularly within our mind, that apparently keeps our beliefs and our conditioning safe from the outside world. And so we have this confusion, right? Because we're at odds with the world, because we believe we are separate from it. And so we build up this confused mentality where we're trying to live a life according to our likes, and we're trying to avoid our dislikes, and we're trying to build our life in that way. But as you know, that life always intervenes, and a lot of the times we encounter situations in our life that are there so that we can learn and grow from, and we begin to have a deeper experience of reality. But a lot of the times we fight those experiences, particularly when we've bought into this confusion of the jiva. But as Dattatreya says in this verse, how can there be any confusion relating to the Atman? Think about that, right? If we are fundamentally the Atman, we are fundamentally Brahman, how could there be any confusion? Because that's who we truly are. So how could we be confused about the ultimate reality of existence, of our existence, which is part of the entire existence? Actually not separate, remember. There's no separation between you and the ultimate. And I'm talking about you here as the Atman, not as the jiva. And so could there be any confusion? This is like the old Zen and Taoist parable of how do we become natural again when we are nature itself? Because from the Zen and Taoist perspective, our natures have been warped. And so we are naturally natural, and our nature is fundamentally Atman. It's this undifferentiated consciousness, but we've been shaped according to the conditioning and the lives that we live, and we forget that. And so in Zen and Taoism, they say, how do we realize that naturalness again, even though we are nature itself? And so that's an interesting paradox. And so we have to look at this at a very deep level. And Lord Dattatreya actually says, how can you say, I am confused? Again, the Atman can never be confused from our natural state. We can never be confused, right? That is illogical because we are the Atman. So how could there be confusion? We are that eternal reality. So it's only the jiva that says it's confused. Only when we believe in this identity that is separate from the world does the illogical confusion arise. So we have to understand that this jiva, this subjective viewpoint we have that projects its own likes and dislikes onto a world that is essentially is just neutral. It is just there for you to experience, but we want to experience in a certain way. And when it doesn't go our way, this is when the confusion arises. And so what Lord Dattatreya is saying here is we have to continually to bring our awareness back to our fundamental nature of Atman and abide in that. And as we continually abide in the Atman, all confusion will disappear because we will have finally merged with the ultimate reality of Brahman. Shanti, shanti, shanti.